Welcome. In the top left, we have from Team Mouse Sports. Just kidding. In the top left, we have from Team Liquid. It is Rhett.
Mouse Sports Rhett. That would blow people's minds.
That would make people outraged, I
This
think.
just in.
From Team Liquid, it is Joost de Kroon, also known as the King of Drones, also called Rhett. In the bottom left, we have from Team Mouse Sports, it's Hasuobs. Would you call Hasuobs the most successful German player?
I would call Hasuobs the most successful German player.
He did so well this year in terms of prize money.
Well, I wouldn't even when you talk about German esports superstars. Well, I suppose you have to mention the two twins that play a lot of FIFA. They've won tons and tons of money.
Those guys are sick.
But Hasu has been a German champion in Warcraft 3. He's been a German champion in StarCraft 2. He's always finishing high in EPS. He's always a contender in any international event he enters, and he's one of the big favorites in all of the German events. And there's a big German esports scene. So I would say he is definitely one of the most successful German esports pros. And I would make a really strong case for him being the most successful German StarCraft player.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Germans that are really strong, Zaka, Dark Force, and all these other great German players, I think Hasuobs really shines. It's really funny because I was doing In the Money a couple weeks ago, Ben, and I was like looking at all the highest earning players, and of course they pick like the big winners, right? Like Stefano winning WCS Europe, and like Creator winning TSO4, and the very bottom of this, like it says Dennis Schneider, Hasuobs won $10,000. I was like, really? I'm like, when did he do this? And then it just like shows that he won like an EPS, and I'm like, wow, good for you, Hasuobs. And I realized, he doesn't necessarily have to play in high-profile tournaments. He's winning money, and he's making a great career.
Interestingly enough, Soka, the also German Protoss player, has won $3,000 more overall in StarCraft 2 than Hasuobs. Soka's career earnings really $47,970. Hasu's $44,220. So when you talk about purely
neck and neck,
fiscally,
man.
These guys are a very neck and neck. Soka apparently has won just a little bit more. But if we go back to the years prior to the Warcraft 3 years versus the Brood War years, Hasu's earnings, I think, push him ahead of Soka in that regard.
What about this year alone? Because that's compiled over time, right? So
this year alone?
If you go into 2012 and just look at all the Europeans.
This year alone, Hasu is definitely out-earning Soka, nearly doubling his 2012 winnings.
Yeah, look at the names in front of him: Stefano, Mana, Nurcio, and Thorzane. Of course, those guys because they won the tournaments. But Hasuobs is over there, even over Sasa, who just won 10,000.
Over Sasa, over Lucifron, over Rhett. So he definitely has had some great successes. He's a very, very strong German Protoss player. Also was just updated, Dan. I do think we are going to show one more game tonight that was not originally on the schedule. I believe Galaxy versus Puma will be broadcast this evening.
I'm actually looking for it. I haven't seen Puma play in a long time.
So this will not be our final broadcast of the evening. So good news for everybody, especially us.
That's right. I haven't seen Puma really play since TLO just dropped the mess out of him on Metropolis. If you remember that Nidus drop play, Ben, which was awesome to see from TLO, one of his only wins in the season. Rhett, meanwhile, we just talked up Hasuobs a lot, and everyone can kind of begin to respect. But Rhett, you can just make such a strong case for him. In fact, Rhett has performed really well in the first, I would say, 2/3 of the year, up until maybe August, and even the early days of September. Rhett actually has a lot of top 4 placings. And when we did the leaderboard, Rhett was surprisingly like the 3rd or 4th highest foreigner ranked up. And we're like, wow, Rhett actually has some really nice results this year. He should be very proud of himself.
Yeah. Since then, he's maybe, I don't want to say he's had struggles, but we know for a fact that Rhett is trying to make some changes in his personal life. He's trying to stop smoking. He's trying to get in better shape physically. He's trying to find himself in a better place mentally as well. And while that is ultimately good for your life, when you make those kinds of changes, especially when you make big changes on a big scale in your life, you often find that you regress before you progress. You take one step back so you can get the running start as you leap forward. And that's kind of come through in some of his StarCraft results. He's still certainly a fantastic, monstrously good player, but certainly his most recent tournament results have been disappointing for him and disappointing for his fans.
It's so funny too, right? Because Rhett is just an unbelievably good macro player, and people say players like him and Idra aren't really impacted much by the quote patch Zerg phenomenon, right? It's just one Overlord barely surviving, by the way. Very nice save here from Rhett. People look at players like, they accuse like Vortex and Sort of and Slivko and all these other Zergs that kind of came up, quote unquote, from nowhere.
Man, do not accuse Slivka of anything. He will crush you.
I'm not.
He will
I'm saying
break you in
people
half.
are accusing them.
You are talking about a large Russian man that is not afraid.
I don't disagree in the slightest, man.
Slivka could
is
like
big.
chest press you and then rip you in half over his head. It's like a Jax fatality in Mortal Kombat.
And then he's just going to do flies with my rip. I think, no, I understand exactly what you're saying, Ben. I don't really necessarily agree with that. I think those players are sick and they're awesome and they're showing that they can compete at the highest levels. It's just that it just doesn't seem to necessarily Rhett doesn't seem to necessarily abide by those rules, and I think it's very interesting because Rhett still keeps a strong macro style, and he sometimes even metagames himself. Remember how much he prepared for Huck's push in the first series of NASL when he was playing early this season? He was like, he tries to change it up, and then sometimes he over-prepares, and I think if Rhett just stops overthinking sometimes, just plays his game, I think he'll be unstoppable again.
Hasu going for a super aggressive Immortal play on Whirlwind. I don't know how in the world he thinks he's going to make this work when he's got to push such a long distance. Rhett seems very aware of what he's up against, and even though he actually hasn't seen anything, he's on 63 drones already. He is producing nothing but units, Zerglings and Roaches with upgrades for each. And Hasu's going to have a tough time leaving his base. It's not even that this is a late push, man. This is coming right in time. Rhett's just macros faster and harder than other Zergs.
Yeah, and he's able to squeeze out more units. That's just what he can do. He's getting a macro hatch up as well, realizing that he needs to be able to spend all the money he can possible because this push is committed. He knows no third base is coming up as well, so Rhett just needs to crush this once. The creep spread from Rhett also trying to extend a little bit farther forward from the third base, but for the most part, he doesn't really have anything.
How much space Rhett is giving up. He needs to be setting up big surrounds and big flanks. Now he's going to split up his units a little bit, but he's gone all the way back to his natural to do so, which worries me a little bit. Hasu is now in a pretty good position with his Warp Prism, with his forward pylons. He can begin to make the big reinforcements. Rhett does have the big surround, though, and here he comes from all angles. Hasu's going to need some great force fields. They're okay, but not the best I've ever seen. Sentry's mostly protected, but these Immortals are not. Roach is doing good damage. Hasu's going to have to micro this well. He does have some fantastic control, but will it be enough? I'm not so sure.
The Zerglings and Roaches and reinforcements are trying to go through, and once they do, the gates are coming down hard as Hasuobs doesn't really have the support units to defend the Immortals for much longer. It has to pick up 2, but he won't be able to push any further. Red supply is incredibly high, and even if he does, how will Hasuobs hold off a counterattack?
I don't think he's going to be able to, Dan. He is trying to float back with his Warp Prism as quickly as he possibly can, but Rhett is outpacing it in a big way. There's a couple of sentries behind this wall. There is no Immortals in production. Uh-oh, Hasu might just be dead.
Rhett just has to be very good with his injects and keep producing units and keep slamming onto the walls, although Hasuobs now finally has his Warp Prism back into play. And Rhett has to kind of be cautious. Doesn't want to throw away too many units. He is targeting down the Cybernetics Core, which is an awesome pickoff, and now he's going to back off, realizing he's halting a huge amount of production. He even has his Infestation Pit done, so Rhett has his follow-up plan nicely secured.
Nice job by Rhett, disengaging at the appropriate time. Killed the Cyber Core, realized that Hasu had just enough, and backed off without taking critical losses. Now he's going to be able to freely drone up if he wants to. He's got his Infestor Tech on the way. And Rhett's in a great position. I think this is almost unlosable for Rhett. He would have to make some big mistakes. Hasu's still being active with his Warp Prisms. Going to try to find openings, but if we look around Rhett's bases, we see he has kind of sent some units here and there to receive these drops. So Hasu, it's not going to be easy for him to find openings and to do damage.
Rhett knows his opponent's not taking a third base, but he's going to take a fourth anyways, realizing, you know what, I mean, Hasuobs is going to be passive for a while.
He's got the money for it. He's got the drones for it. And he could easily crank out another big round of drones. Rhett is starting to build those infestors. Hasu's follow-up is going to be some Colossi. I don't know if we're going to see him try to take a third base or just try one more big two-base push. I don't know that there's really a right answer in this position. He's already behind. His Immortal push has been crushed. And I mean, Rhett has so much freedom. He has so much map control, so much vision, so much time to react to anything that Hasu could do.
He's got a lot of everything, Ben. He's got, and I mean, Rhett's pretty much been on top of his index. Look at his queen energy, being low all the time. Awesome job by Rhett to just constantly crank out units. Now he is starting to get upgrades, which are very valuable, but he's going to get Aspire as well, getting prepared for any kind of Colossus push. He can get a good amount of Corruptors. At the same time, Hasuobs, how many units is he going to wait for? He's just going to push, I guess. He's not going to even try to take a third base. He's just going to move out with his Colossus whenever he feels prepared. He does have double Robo. And once he does, he's going to try to go for one last push. But I feel like Rhett will be able to hold it very easily as long as he gets enough or the right engagement.
Rhett's maxed out, or he might as well be maxed out. He's at 186 supply of 200. I think he's waiting for his Spire to finish up, just so that he can crush those Colossi. Hasu is on the move, Dan, and I don't think it's to take a third base. As we see the line of pylons being queued up, he's making his way towards Rhett's side of the map. So Yos is going to have to position himself well. He's going to have to hurry up that Spire production. Spire's still 15 seconds from completion. Look at all the money Rhett has. He can remax a couple of times. Definitely wants to have some Corruptors out, though, before he engages his Protoss ball.
Yeah, the Colossus will be massively effective against the Zergling-based army. Does have some Fungals, and it'll be very nice. We see also a nice War Prism drop here from Hasu to kind of draw the Rhett's attention away. But at the same time, Rhett's not going to budge. He's just going to land some Fungals.
Corruptors aren't here yet, so Hasu will win this initial skirmish. 10 Corruptors are in production. Stalker count's not that high. There's literally only 7 Stalkers, so it'll take a long time for them to kill the Corruptors when they do enter the field. Good fungal by Rhett. He's going to need a couple more of those to buy himself the time he needs. Corruptors just now spawning. Rhett's given up so much position. He's going to be force fielded out of his natural. Uh-oh.
No, that's not good for Rhett because the position from Colossus can immediately snipe anything as well as work on the drones. The Stalkers are protecting Colossus pretty well. Rhett has to drop Infested Terrans, but look at this. Hasuobs also dropping the third base. Rhett losing a huge part of his economy. If Hasuobs can pull this off, just control the amount of units coming in. Needs to drop more force field, but he doesn't have any. He does have a pylon, though. He snuck a probe in, and he's able to warp in reinforcements.
And I really would love to see Hasu just back up to the main base right now. Force field that ramp continually. Rhett is still ahead in supply. It's not a huge lead, though. It's Puro, Zealot, Immortal, and Stalker against Roach, Ling, and Fester, and that is actually the better army composition. Rhett does clean this up. It's at the cost of his natural.
Wow. Hasuobs taps out despite him killing an incredible amount of units. In fact, he was up 50 to 28 workers still at the end of the game, but he was mined out.
But he was mined out, and Rhett had bank.
Rhett has
is
so
the
much
really
money.
important thing. I think Rhett could have probably won that game just by making 12 mutas, as he did have the money for it. So, good game. Congratulations. It was exciting down to the very end, but Hasu ultimately was not able to hold the line. I wonder if he had just, get up into the natural, kill those drones, push up into the main, force field the ramp, clean out the main, then what happens? Then what is the state of that game if he can kill the natural in the main?
Rhett has to burn way more energy to bust up using Infested Terrans, can't fungal and land down the Stalkers. Maybe different game. Kill off a bunch of important tech.
Still was a great game. Rhett takes game number 1, goes up 1-0. It was brought to you guys by Epson Projectors, #1 projector brand worldwide with a full line of bright projectors with brilliant image quality. Available for you at epson.com/projectors. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Game number 2, Rhett versus Hasu, after this.